Episode 9 is not only being seen as a course correction technique by Disney, Lucasfilm, JJ, and crew, but also as a way of closing the Skywalker saga. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, a lot of people have been trying to really figure out what's going on with this movie when it comes to the big plan by JJ Abrams and Chris Terrio. We do know that they do have a lot of tricks up their sleeves when it comes to this movie, and a lot of people are really wondering about how this movie is going to connect to the prequels, the originals, and other forms of the Disney canon within the Star Wars franchise. Now, these past couple of months or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film when it comes to some of the set leaks, the set designs, the concept art and storyboard descriptions, etc. Now, one of which has all to do with a very interesting subject involving Supreme Leader Snoke making his return in Episode 9. Now, you guys may have been hearing about all of the different descriptions these past 6 months, give or take, about Snoke and his potential return in Episode 9. However, what's really intriguing is that apparently one of the molds of Supreme Leader Snoke for Episode 9 have been altered to the point where the mold actually has no injuries to his face. Now, the fact that a mold was made for this movie tells us numerous things. That this actually could be moving forward about implementing Supreme Leader Snoke back into Star Wars Episode 9, either in the form of a flashback or him coming back to life. Again, in case you guys have no idea what the molds are, if you guys look at some BTS footage of both The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, you can see tons of examples of these. And you do get to see a lot of different molds of the different creatures and the main villains in the Star Wars franchise, etc. So when it comes to Supreme Leader Snoke, one of the molds were of his face and his upper body. However, no injuries were present on the face. Now, this is honestly raising a lot of questions right now on whether or not Snoke is actually going to be in this movie in present time or in the form of a flashback scene. Now, I would have to say that this is probably going to be a flashback, most likely. The fact that they are moving forward with the idea of Snoke being a part of the plot of this movie, I think honestly is a great thing. If you think about it, it's the last thing that people would really think about, you know, killing off Snoke in The Last Jedi as a way to move Kylo Ren up the ladder within the First Order to being the Supreme Leader and the leader of the entire army. You would think that they wouldn't bring Snoke back, but they may be trying to subvert our expectations going into Episode 9 by JJ and crew. Now, we do know that JJ, Andy Serkis, Rian Johnson, they all know the backstory to Supreme Leader Snoke. It's a big secret for these guys. Now, later this year, we're actually going to be learning more revelations about the character of Snoke through one of the comics, which, by the way, ironically, drops just 1 month exactly before the release of Episode 9 this November. So this November, we will be learning more about Snoke regardless, apart from his, potential return in Episode 9. So, you guys may recall The Force Awakens version of Supreme Leader Snoke looked significantly different than how he did in The Last Jedi. That's because Rian Johnson changed the appearance of Snoke in The Last Jedi than how he was actually shown in The Force Awakens. I don't know if you guys knew that, but Rian Johnson did indeed change the design of Snoke. And it's also very, obvious if you look at the two side by side. So now going into Episode 9, it seems as so that we will be getting a pretty much, version of Supreme Leader Snoke without the injuries to his face. I find it very intriguing that a mold was made for this character where there's no injuries or deformities on Snoke's face or his neck or his upper body area. So with that being said, does this necessarily mean that Snoke is either A, going to come back to life in present time, or B, is this most likely just going to be used for one of the flashback sequences? And I think that the bigger question is this: is Andy Serkis coming back in Episode 9? I know a couple of people have, been asking this question endlessly, and Andy Serkis has been laughing it off, endlessly all the time when people ask him about it. He doesn't really say yes or no, so I find that a little interesting for sure. So, the thing here, if you look at Episode 9, it is a very important film by Disney and Lucasfilm. They have to surprise the fans, and in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I feel like that in order for a redemption arc for Kylo Ren to really work, this is just my opinion, I think that a greater evil has to rise that's going to get in the way of both Kylo Ren and Rey, that'll force them to team up and take on a greater evil. What better greater evil would there be than Supreme Leader Snoke for these two characters to take on? But anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.